Hi everyone, cheers. Welcome to Ladies Night. We do this every other Wednesday on the Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue page. I usually come on at 7. Brenda couldn't be here with me tonight. I politely asked Brenda to not come over, only out of an extreme abundance of caution for her sake. But hopefully she will join me in the next couple of chapters as Brenda's chapter is coming up. And if you've been following along in the book, you'll get to see how Brenda sort of introduced me to Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue. So, I mean, if that wouldn't have happened, that serendipitous day, I would have never met Keith. I would have never wrote the book. I would have never been involved, and that would have been a huge tragedy for me personally. So here we are. We've got chapter 17 tonight of Rescue Matters. If you've been tuning in every other week, you sort of know what this is all about. If you're new, I have been with Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue for many years now. When we first started, it was not the well-oiled rescue machine that it was today. It was a few misfits and fools. We were the breakfast club of animal rescue, just trying to save dogs out of Keith's garage. And when I started writing the book, it was my desperate plea to keep us going just for one more day. I mean, if people knew what we were doing, maybe they'd follow us, maybe they'd help, maybe we could figure out how to do this. And oh my God, I can't believe we've come so far. You guys have really stepped up to the plate, and here we are. And so the book is about that journey. And it starts, let me do a little recap here. But here's the story in a summary. Chapter 1. Some dude from really far away basically moves into an area he has no idea anything about, realizes there's a huge problem, find out that he used to be a prison guard and is a pretty rough and tumble dude with a growing beard but a big heart. He decides to start rescuing animals out of his house. He meets another couple of crazy girls. They start rescuing animals with him. Let's see what else happens. Then we get one crazy writer who falls in line and decides to join the cause. We get an officer who gets killed, an officer with an attempted murder, a St. Bernard who gets rescued, a St. Bernard who passes. We get a stray fawn and a felony charge, and now here we are. And so in all of that time, over those 3 years, in a nutshell, we had rescued just under 3,000 dogs during all of those daily trials and tribulations of your normal life and of the area and everything else going on. So I wasn't going to do chapter 17 tonight. It's not a feel-good chapter. And Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue, we have really prided ourselves on when things are not going good for you guys, when things are bad in the world or in your personal lives, what if we're the ones that they get to tune into and they get to see our rescue dogs and our rescue puppies at night and feel the inspiration that we feel, in doing this work. And so we try and be that. And in reading this chapter tonight, it sort of wasn't that. And I thought about it for hours today. I told my husband, I even called Gina, our resident musician. Gina, such a heavy topic that I'm writing and reading about tonight. Is today the best day to put that out there? Maybe I should put something light out there. And after much thought and a couple of trusted opinions, I'm going to go forward with chapter 17 tonight. And I feel like that is the right choice because as I was reading it through, which I usually don't, but I did before I'm going to read it to you tonight. There was one sentence in here, and I went, I got to read that tonight. That's exactly why we're doing it. It's exactly why I'm doing it. So I'm going to read chapter 17 to you tonight. Tragedy Rocks a Nation. Here we go. On August 19th, 2017, a pregnant Savannah LaFontaine Greywind was reported missing from her Fargo home. 8 days later, her body was found in the Red River a few miles from my own residence. She was no longer pregnant, and there was no baby found with her body. Savannah's newborn daughter had been discovered 3 days earlier alive and in good health. She was being cared for by the very people that murdered her mother and took her before she was born. The nation was shocked by her brutal death, especially the tribal nation. Savannah was born in Belcourt. She was a member of the Spirit Lake tribe. Her father is a Spirit Lake Indian, and her mother is a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. The story of her violent death and miraculous survival of the baby girl taken from her body spread around the globe. It was a tragedy that brought needed attention to the fact that specifically on or off a reservation, Native American women are more at risk of many different kinds of violence. This problem must be rectified before the whole of any populace can truly be well. Where there is violence against women, there is violence against all other vulnerable groups, such as animals. And so I'm going to stop for just a second. There's a couple of chapters in the book where I'm not only talking about animals. And cheers, ladies. Having a little glass of wine tonight with this nice cup that Karen and friends in Ohio who had me as a guest in their book club sent me. Thank you. I've chatted about Keith's background as an officer, some of the troubles of the area. It all really just relates back to that where people are suffering, animals are suffering. And the time in which we were rescuing animals, like all this happened. And it's just, it's real life and it's true and it's all related. And it's not just about helping animals. It can't be. The interrelatedness of this crisis is real. Difficult work is ahead. A multifaceted approach is the only way to a solution. Helping animals cannot only be about helping animals. It has to be about helping people too. No one is well until we are all well. Earlier in the book, I talked about how I had wanted to get involved in animal rescue in a deeper way. And my husband had lots of suggestions, right? You should go here and try this and do that. And all those were well and nice, but nothing ever jumped out at me and swallowed me whole until I met Keith and saw what he was doing. And obviously that has swallowed you guys whole too. That we all knew that he's genuine. He's the real deal. And reflecting on why I've sort of stuck this long and really believe in the vision that he had and the vision that we've collectively as a team sort of developed was because it's not just about the animals. It's about the whole of the problem, and more specifically about the youth in the area. You've heard him talk, and we've talked many times about the building having an attached youth center, which was just genius and so incredibly important for that area and for all the other areas like it. It's really one of the reasons why I've stuck, is because I believe in the deeper things that we're doing for the longer good. Michelle Obama is quoted saying, quote, "The measure of any society is how it treats its women." I also like the Gandhi quote, of course, which says the measure of any nation is how it treats its animals. But North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp understands this. Since Savannah's death, she has introduced Savannah's Act. Savannah's Act at the time was not passed. It was only introduced. It has since passed in October of 2020 in memory of Savannah LaFontaine Graywin. Congress and President signed that bill into law. One of the major requirements of that bill that I felt was just the most standout for me was that it finally required statistics on missing and murdered, Native American women to be tracked, which otherwise they have not been, which is insane. In 2016, the National Crime Information Center received 5,712 reports of missing American Indian and Alaskan Native women and girls. Only 2% of those cases were logged into the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Missing Persons Database. That means 5,598 of those reported missing women and girls became invisible. Only 114 were ever actually logged. So Savannah's Act, which passed, works to change that. There's another act called the Non-Invisible Act, which got passed in that very same month, which works to change that as well. As I did some research, of course, I found that out. Carolyn Laporte, Senior Policy Advisor on Native American Affairs at the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, said, quote, "The police response to cases of missing Native American women has been riddled with prejudice, and that often no report is taken at all. Savannah's Act focuses on this issue," she said. And here's why I'm reading it to you tonight. This is the sentence that got me and that I knew I'm just going to go ahead with this chapter. She said, because, quote, "the bill's greatest accomplishment may be raising public awareness of this issue," end quote. As simple as that. And as you read through the Non-Invisible Act and Savannah's Act, they're not widespread, sweeping, tomorrow everything is going to be better changes. Nothing is. They're a step in the right direction, for sure, and they raise awareness. And if the intent was to raise awareness, and if my intent was to write about it, and it was on the schedule and planned to be reading to you fine people tonight, then that is what I'm doing and why I stuck with it for this evening. According to the Department of Justice, Native American women on some reservations are murdered at 10 times the national average. I double-checked that statistic today, and in 2018, that still stands, that Native American women are murdered and go missing at 10 times the national average, which is just staggering. Quote, "Of over 2,000 women surveyed, 84% of Native American and Alaskan Native women have experienced violence. 56% have experienced sexual violence, violence at the hands, and of that second group, over 90% have experienced violence at the hands of a non-tribal member." Most women reported that they were concerned for their safety, and around half said they had experienced physical violence, like pushing, shoving, or being beaten. I wanted to know firsthand how difficult it was as a Native American woman growing up in the Turtle Mountain area. So I sat down with a friend of mine who grew up there. She grew up on the Turtle Mountain First Nation in Belcourt. I'd bumped into her a while back at a dog rescue fundraiser, and I remember her telling me that she grew up there and that her grandma took in stray puppies when she was a little girl. I sat down with Shelley over some craft beers and vegetarian pizza here in my hometown. At first glance, she and I could be sisters. We shared deep brown eyes, long dark hair, naturally tan skin, and a stereotypical Fargo accent, which includes our vernacular like, "You betcha," and "Oh, don't you know?" Shelley and I worked together for 15 years, or worked together 15 years earlier serving bar food and drinks. I was 18. She was a few years older. At the time, I didn't know where she grew up. I didn't know anything about her. I just knew I liked her. We worked well together. She was honest, straightforward, and she lifted other women up. She is that same woman today. So I was really fortunate when writing it to be able to reach out to her after accidentally bumping into her at a fundraiser for Turtle Mountain because she grew up in the area. So I sat down with her and asked her some questions about what it was like growing up there. Here's what she said. Quote, "There were tons of strays." She said when I asked what the situation with dogs was like as she was growing up, "I stayed with my grandma on the weekends. She had a place in the country, and stray pregnant mamas would wander in all the time. They'd give birth, then leave. I remember bottle feeding the pups with a baby doll bottle. When they were old enough, we would throw scraps out, the same scraps we threw out for the pigs. When I asked what they did with all the puppies, she said they'd give them away to family or friends. Quote, but a lot of folks didn't have any money to take care of them. The cost of getting them fixed was so high, and the nearest vet more than an hour away. Some folks don't even have enough cars or money for gas, even if they wanted to care for them like they should, she said. I asked her what it was like growing up in a small town, North Dakota, on the reservation. Quote, it was all about who you knew. It was all about politics, she said, shaking her head in apparent frustration. Quote, I moved away 2 months after I graduated from high school, and I never went back. There was nothing for me there. The schools were great, though. I still remember some of my teachers. They all genuinely had an interest in seeing you succeed. As we talked and had our beers, she expressed her irritation with small town gossip, the constant politics with a dash of corruption. And I got the sense problems there were not so different from any rural area with dwindling jobs, little for young adults to do, and increasing problems with addiction. I asked Shelley to shed some light on what she felt was the general attitude toward dogs where she grew up. What she told me was difficult to hear. She said that some people have become immune to seeing dogs suffer, but that is not reflective of everyone. Quote, people shoot dogs there. They don't care whose dog it is. If it comes on your property, it gets shot. There was a lot of that, she said. There was also a lot of dogs that got hit by cars too. That was really sad. It was awful, she said. I asked her about the winter time, about the dogs that die from exposure, if she had firsthand experience with that. She said, oh yeah, big time. Porch puppies froze all the time. If we found them, if we knew they were out there, we'd bring them inside. But not everyone did. Lots of them froze. It seemed that the old mindset of, it's just a dog, for some, still is deeply embedded today. Quote, taking care of the dogs was the least of anyone's worries, she said. Oh, you guys must be thinking about me. I got that same itch in my nose. When I start reading, I don't know what happens. Is it you, Kona? Today, Shelley has 3 small dogs of her own. She showed me pictures of her fur babies and her human babies too. We compared notes about how good our kids have it now and how they had no idea what it would be like to grow up in the circumstances that she did. I thanked her for her time and candid answers, but I left our dinner date feeling solemn. Maybe it was the drinks that got to me that night. Maybe it was just a bad day and I was in a mood. But the funk I came home with was one of hopelessness. I even argued with my husband, telling him that I was giving up, that I couldn't keep watch it happening with no end in sight, that this had been going on for so long. Who was I? Who were we to think that change could happen within a population that I knew little about or we had any influence over? Dogs, because people suck. I think that describes the mood I felt when I was writing it, and so many times throughout the years that we've rotated through feeling hopeless. It's less now, but it was a lot back then. And the problem seems overwhelming at times, but obviously we're making a difference, and across the United States, rescues everywhere are making a difference. And the rate of dogs going into shelters is down. The rate of euthanasia in shelters around the United States is significantly down. As I was doing some research on just stats on that, collectively something 40% of all animals that go into shelters in the United States get euthanized, which is super high and ridiculous. And probably that's really conservative. But in Japan, less animals go into shelters because there's just less cats and dogs overall. But the euthanasia rate is in the 80s, in the 84%, something like that. I was just looking at it today, which is insane. That would be the equivalent of, millions of cats and dogs in the United States every year being euthanized. And in Japan, and I love Japan, I've visited briefly and fell in love with it in so many ways, but they still use the gas chamber for those dogs, which is horrible. So we're doing good. Like there's places that are doing good, places that are doing bad, and I guess we just got to keep on, right? And so I've got Daisy's story here for you, and then I'm going to let you go for the night. I like Daisy's story. If you saw a picture of Daisy in the book, you'd maybe recognize her if you were here with us at the time. She's sort of a boxer mix with one big brown spot on her eye. Otherwise, her whole body was white. And she was extremely emaciated when we got her. So this is Daisy's story. Hey guys, there's a stray dog in the trees by my house with a broken leg. He can barely walk or run. And it's in the same trees my husband spotted a mountain lion. So it's not going to last long. Can you get him? He's nice. He walked right up to our neighbor who was out there checking on cattle. Quote, "We're very sorry, but due to a parvo outbreak, we are closed for 2 weeks. Can you keep him safe? We'll get there as soon as we can. In the meantime, we can provide food if you need it." God, that's so friggin' heartbreaking. That still happens. I mean, occasionally we have to close the rescue down and clean everything out because of parvo. And it's like, it's been that way and we've gotten better, but it's just, I think, the nature of rescue. And what do you do? Where do you put dogs? And now we have a network of fosters that, we can sometimes place them in, but sometimes it's just full. Like the rescue is full. There's no more dogs we can possibly take. Even if we could, we can't transport them. Sometimes it's just really hard, and we ask the community to help in those times to keep those dogs safe until we can get there. We got there as soon as we could, and he turned out to be a sweet little thing named Daisy. The vet said he couldn't be sure, but most likely she was hit by a car. One of her hind legs was completely crushed. Her entire hip joint had to be rebuilt. Committing to animals that need thousands of dollars in vet care is not a light decision. How many dogs can be saved with the thousands of dollars we spend to save one dog? But when we save one, we save it all the way. The night Keith brought Daisy home, she was emaciated, starving, and broken. It was heartbreaking to see. Keith sent the team a picture of her snuggled under a blanket later that night after a warm dinner and as much comfort as he could give her. I recognized the blanket she was snuggled in. I recognized the ottoman she was lying on and the television in the background. She was in Keith's living room, not in the garage kennel. I'd seen a handful of other dogs, the ones in the worst condition on that same ottoman, under that same blanket. For a few special ones, he lets them inside his home and into his heart a little more. Since then, I can think of, Bubba. Bubba was the first one. You all know Grandpa, who made his way into Scott and Keith's heart by being demanding and barking. Hope made it in and stayed with the resident pack. Psycho is there for her own obvious reasons. Bear is in the house. Bella, who's back here on the bed, made it inside the house and into the pack, and then made it to me and never left. I know you all wanted little Bubba to stay with Keith, but geez, that resident pack, it can't keep growing. Of course, Rob is there too. So Daisy found her way to a foster family in Fargo who had a dog that looked nearly identical to her. The plan was to keep her until she was fully healed, or at least until she could move to another rescue and be put up for adoption. That never happened. During Daisy's difficult recovery, the foster family reached out to tell me the news. There was nothing else they could have done. It was inevitable, given her condition and circumstances. She was never meant to go to another rescue. Her home was with them. And after Daisy, she made almost number 3,000 that Turtle Mountain had rescued up until that time. Daisy's story sort of didn't end there. I wanted to do a follow-up on Daisy's story for a second rescue book. And when I was chatting with the family and going over what had happened, I remembered that ultimately Daisy didn't work out in that family, which is really, really, really hard. Extremely hard for that family to adopt Daisy, take her in, only to realize it doesn't work. Like, it didn't work with the resident dog, or it didn't work with a family member. It's so flippin' heartbreaking. That has got to be one of the most difficult things for the team and for the people that adopt dogs, and probably one of the reasons why people don't adopt dogs. When I brought her home, it was hell for me. I was stressed out. She's lovely and sweet and nice, but she was scared. She didn't know how to walk downstairs. She was terrified of my husband. This thing right here didn't like her at all. It was a really flippin' hard time. It took weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I have a picture of me kissing Bella one morning, really early in the morning. I was getting up to go up toward Keith's to help out with something. And I took this photo of me and Bella. And I remember thinking, this is the last photo I'm ever gonna take with her. I have to bring her back. I've gotta, this isn't working with my family. Like, I was scared. This wasn't working. And I brought her with me that day. Freaking most miserable day ever. That she was in my vehicle, and hadn't told anyone yet that that's why she was there, is because it wasn't working. And all day long I sat on it and thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I was gonna, have Keith help me. I said I would take her and see if it worked, and it didn't work, and so I have to, we have to figure something else out. And midway through the day, I don't know, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Something came over me in an instant, and I said, I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna give it more time. I'm gonna figure it out. And obviously I'm so glad I did, because Bella works just great with our family. Now she's the best dog for real that I've ever had. She's the best with kids. She's the best with other dogs. She still doesn't love my husband, but he didn't grow up with big dogs. He doesn't entirely know how to act around them. So it's a bit, there's some, culpability there as well. But Daisy ended up being adopted into a different family and is doing really well. So it was a success story, and then traumatizing, and then success again. But we will do our best for any family that needs to rehome a dog they've adopted from us, or a dog that they've adopted and it just doesn't work out. Those are really hard situations, and we will absolutely do our best. But here's what I've got for you. I will see you again in 2 weeks. It's kind of a difficult one in 2 weeks from now. That one's a difficult chapter. So get my tissues for that one. And here's what I actually have. Calendar, Giving Hearts Day. Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue does 2 big fundraisers a year. Otherwise, we really don't. We don't want to be constantly asking for money. We need what we need, and that's it. And so we got our 2 big fundraisers a year, shot collar trivia, Keith eating dog food, whatever gets your attention, good or bad. But we've got Giving Hearts Day on February 11th. Gina's going to be live playing some music. It is a fundraising day, but we will not sort of directly be fundraising. We are going to give back to you like we did last year. We're going to give you everything we've got behind the scenes, and try to make it a really fun, inspirational, great day for you guys. So February 11th on your calendars. In order to participate, we need matching funds. We've got $4,000 in matching funds. We're looking for $20,000 in $500 increments. So any family or business that wants to sponsor us on Giving Hearts Day in $500 or more, that would be wonderful. It can be anonymous or not anonymous. We would love to promote and share the names of you and your business who support us. That would be wonderful. So February 11th, put that on your calendars. And then starting tomorrow on Amazon, Rescue Matters will be free to download through Monday. So tell your friends, your family, whomever you would like to share this story with. Rescue Matters will be free on Amazon to download tomorrow through Monday. And that does not come around very often. I think last time that happened was maybe a year ago or so. So share the book, spread the word. Thank you so much, everyone. So appreciate you tuning in tonight. It's really, truly an honor when you decide to spend your time with me. So much appreciated. We'll see you in 2 weeks, okay? Bye.